What's going on, everybody? Carlos, Perry, Eric there in the back. Pretty big review. This is probably the biggest horror film to come out this year. Definitely the most popular, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Follow up to the most successful horror film of all time.
Yeah.
That's
box office wise, right?
Yeah, box office wise. Yeah.
Grossed over like $500 million.
Yep. It Chapter 2, which is directed by Andy Muschietti and written by Gary Doberman.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I went into this film with some pretty low expectations because for those who happen to follow my channel, I was not a huge fan of the first It. There was just a lot of issues I had with it. I won't go too into it, but I just thought it had some tonal issues, some writing issues. Overall, the horror aspect of it didn't really intrigue me or really give me much tension overall. But that being said, me going into this film with low expectations, I personally actually came out of this film pretty entertained by it, and I actually had a pretty enjoyable experience watching this film. That being said, this film is the furthest thing from perfect. This film is absolutely riddled with a bunch of fucking issues.
Yep.
I think that's pretty undeniable. There's just so many issues with this film, but it's so weird. Before I really get into the issues, I just want to say, it's so weird that a film can have so many issues with it like this one, but yet I feel like I had a really enjoyable experience with it. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this, just right off the bat, I like this a lot better than the first one. Like, it's not even like a little bit. Like, I really enjoyed this a lot better than the first one. Because even though there was a lot of issues with it, I definitely found this to be pretty engaging, entertaining, and enjoyable. But like I said, the issues it's glaring. Like, there's glaring issues with it. I guess I'll start by saying that the second act to this is, I think, going to be the most problematic for most people because it's just so repetitive and it's so convenient for what it's just trying to do. It just sets up this thing to where, I'm not going to spoil it, but it basically just finds an excuse to kind of have these repeating scenes over and over again. And I can see a lot of people just being just really tired by it because it is kind of lazy. It is not kind of lazy, it is very lazy. But there was also things about this film that I really enjoyed, and I just think the fact that I found this film to be more self-aware and tonally consistent with its horror comedy approach. And honestly, most of the comedy in this film really worked for me. There was, I would say maybe like 90% of this film, like, I was laughing. This movie's pretty funny. I mean, take that with what you want. This is supposed to be, I guess, a horror film, but I found this film a lot more funnier than it was scary. And I don't know if anybody's gonna agree with me on that, but I enjoyed this film because the comedy really worked for me, and the actors, I thought, by the way, excellent cast. I thought that they casted the older people to play the older versions of the young kids. I thought the casting was great. Bill Hader was the standout in this. I think Bill Hader was just, he has such excellent comedic delivery in this film.
Yeah.
And I just really bought his performance, and he was just a joy to watch on screen. And, on top of that, everyone else gave a pretty good performance. Besides the person that plays Ben, the older person, he was, not like his acting was bad, but just the writing of his character felt kind of bland. He was just part of this love triangle, and that's kind of all they had for him, really. But, yeah, I'll wrap up my quick thoughts and just say that even though this film is absolutely riddled with a bunch of issues, I actually enjoyed this. And it's long. This is pretty much near to a 3-hour film, and I found a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I was pretty entertained by it for the most part, so that was really surprising for me.
I did also find a lot of enjoyment with this, but I feel like there was so many problems that were nagging me the whole way through. And that second act was not easy for me to get through. I was legitimately bored. Not as bored, because I've gone on about how bored I've been with some horror movies. Like, I don't think I'd ever hit that low, but it just felt very fucking, repeating and didn't really add much. I feel like it developed some character stuff.
I mean, I feel like they were trying to give an excuse to one, just have more random scary moments, but also to try and flesh out characters more.
For the most part, they weren't effective either. Like, I didn't find like a lot of those scary like scenes in the second act to be that great.
No, I agree. Again, most of them were just came off comedic, and a lot of them were intentionally comedic too. At least I think they were, because this film felt pretty self-aware.
Yeah, like Carlos, I really enjoyed the comedy in this movie. Like I feel like, I don't know if it's like this movie's just super cleverly written, or more so that like the actors just have a lot of charisma and can really deliver that comedy well. Especially Bill Hader, like no question about it. He's fantastic in this film.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, Perry. Go ahead, boy.
Unleash the beast.
Unleash the beast.
Like always, well, most of the time, I'm on the opposite spectrum. I thought this movie was terrible, and it was a huge disappointment for me. And how Carlos feels about this movie is how I felt about the first one. The first one was riddled with flaws, very glaring flaws, but I still really enjoyed it overall. I actually have a lot of passion for this and the source material. The It novel is my 5th favorite novel of all time. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And to see that novel be torn to shreds the way I just witnessed it torn to shreds, it really, it's almost soul-crushing. Like, soul-crushing is the best word I could use to describe it. Not that there weren't things I enjoyed about this film, because there were definitely a couple of aspects I thought were pretty well done, but like I said, this one was riddled with flaws too, and the bad really outweighs the good by like a wide margin. And what Eric was saying about the second act, I hated the second act of this film.
It was pretty boring for me.
And I thought maybe the third act would save it, but my God, the third act pissed me off too.
I feel like I'm the only one in here who, I didn't love the third act, but I was pretty entertained by it. Even if it felt a little derivative.
I was so disinterested. Like, I wanted to check out. Honestly, like, if I didn't have to watch this for a review, I would have probably walked out of the theater.
You think so?
Yes.
Damn.
Wow.
Yes.
A movie has to be real bad for me to, like, you know, want to turn it off.
And the fact that the third act, like, it was supposed to be really emotional and, you know, really leave you with a emotional high note.
It didn't make me feel emotional.
It didn't earn it whatsoever.
It didn't.
It did not earn it at all.
I can't say I felt really much emotion either.
But the film really tried to like imply the emotion. It was like, oh, this is such a nice wrap up, isn't it? And then I'm like, just get it over with. Let's just end the film, please.
Which is crazy, because it's like, when I read the It novels, like, a lot of people think of it as a horror novel, which it is. It's the most terrifying novel ever written.
Is it?
The ending of the It novel actually made me break down and cry. Like, it's very poignant. And I understand, like, I didn't go in with this film with mammoth expectations or to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the book. But even with those low expectations, I was still let down. And I don't want to hear this argument, oh, well, you just are basing your feelings of this movie off the book. No, I'm looking at it as its own animal, as a film. And as a film, it was, I mean, like I said, terrible. There was things I definitely appreciated about it, but the best horror sequences in the film had nothing to do with the main cast.
For clarification, me and Carlos both haven't read the book.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I think I read maybe half of it, but I'm not a reader, so it's kind of hard for me to stick with a book.
There was actually a bridge scene in the first act of this movie. Very well done.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. That was probably my favorite scene in the movie.
It was a great start to the film.
Oh yeah. When I saw
surprised.
When I saw that, I'm like, holy shit, this is actually gonna be a good sequel. And then as the films progress, the problems just pile on and on and on, to the point where I was just so disinterested by the third act.
So I'm gonna give I'm gonna try to give an objective rundown of the of the 3 acts of this film, of how I felt about it.
Let me just say before you guys, really quick.
No, go ahead.
Sorry to complain about the same thing that I complained about in The Nightingale, but I feel like the pacing and the structure of this movie kind of killed it for me.
Definitely.
Like, I feel like just like The Nightingale, that really bogged down. But The Nightingale, much more to offer. But yeah, the pacing was really not good in this movie.
I didn't feel that with The Nightingale, but that's okay.
Yeah, not to get it back into The Nightingale. Great film, by the way.
Yeah, excellent film. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
But that's Carlos was saying.
But so yeah, just to give like a rundown of how I felt about the 3-act structure to this is, I thought the first act was incredibly strong. There was only a few things in there that I was just like, what the fuck are they trying to do with this?
There was a scene that was pretty silly.
There's a scene that takes place in a Chinese restaurant, and it has to do with fortune cookies. Fucking
yeah, you can
what?
you can just refer it to as the fortune cookie scene.
Yeah, the fortune cookie scene.
It's really dumb.
I don't have an answer for that. But and then there's also this. If you want to get into spoilers later,
we're gonna get into. I feel like
we gotta get into spoilers.
We'll get to that soon. I guess after this we can get into spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
But first act thought pretty strong, despite a few things that I did not like about it. Second act, definitely the weakest act of the film. I think we can all agree there.
Yeah.
There was still, but even then, I still somewhat enjoyed it. Third act, I'm mixed on it, because there were some things that I kind of really enjoyed about it, and then there was a lot of things as well that I just really didn't like at all. Like, I was just like, what is this? This is really bland. This is really cliche. This is really overdone and just super lazy. But just given that rundown, even though I have issues with basically each act, even though some are definitely stronger than others, again, like, the entertainment value throughout the entire film, I thought it just really worked for me. I found it really enjoyable throughout the entire experience. And it's, again, a long movie, and I still found it pretty entertaining. And again, I think it's just because I really enjoyed the chemistry of the adult characters.
Me too.
And I thought it was really believable, and the comedy that, a lot of the banter that they would, go like back and forth with, and just the conversations they would have, like, I thought was either just really funny and sometimes insightful. And I thought it was, again, a lot of issues with first act, second act, and third act. Whole movie has issues, but I found it just entertaining. I was actually entertained by this film for the most part. So that's why, like, even though I agree that this film has a lot of issues, it's weird. Like, this is a weird film. I usually am not like this. I'm usually not like this. Usually, if there's this much issues with a film, I am, like, definitely not enjoying myself. But this film had a lot of saving graces with it, with, Bill Hader as a brilliant, brilliant character, because he's just, again, his comedic delivery in this is just so spot on and consistent. Like, only maybe like a few times you feel like maybe the joke just didn't land, but most of the time, like, you buy it, and it definitely worked for me.
Yeah.
His character arc was terrible, though.
Oh, for sure.
We're having some accompanying music.
It's okay.
Oh,
It's okay.
and I hope you like the character arcs in the first movie, because a lot of the character arcs in this movie are just the same.
I hate the callbacks in this movie.
Yeah,
I almost
they
hate them
piss
all.
me off.
They just drag the film down and just pad out running time.
This film is way too long.
It is. They needed to cut back some shit and make it a tighter film.
Who is doing the editing on this movie?
Yeah.
Because my God.
Honestly, you could probably cut an hour out of this, and you wouldn't be able to.
I don't know about an hour.
The
but-
editor should have been fired.
Well, maybe not an hour, but I mean, fuck, at least 40 minutes, because the entire second act was almost like a squander. So
Yeah, like, so many just callbacks that didn't.
even though I still, like, again, even the second act, as kind of terrible as it is, I still enjoyed myself throughout quite a bit of it, just because of the comedy and the way a lot of stuff landed.
But I feel like they tried to be sentimental in a lot of ways that just didn't work for me.
Same. I completely agree with that. And there was just so many horror sequences in the second act, so many creative decisions where it literally made me groan. I'm like, we're going with this. This is what we decided on. This is what made it past the cutting room. Like, my God, what the hell were you thinking?
I will say that this is a horror movie, so I guess I should talk about whether or not the horror aspect worked. I mean, I didn't really know how to really say to that, because like there are times where I felt tension and I was like, okay, this is pretty effective, but most of like the scares, just what I tend to not like about both It movies is that it always relies on a scary face, like just like a boogeyman moment of like, oh, this is a scary face, and it's like this film also does that a lot. Like, basically that's the entire. That's pretty much the bag of tricks this film has. It's just show a scary face and a scary monster the whole time, and that's basically it. But that being said, a lot of the monsters that they show in this, I didn't mind. Most of them. There were some that I thought were just trying to like take from other films, obviously like The Thing and Evil Dead even. But for the most part, I enjoy the creativity behind the monsters in this one more than the first one.
I wish they would have been a little bit more creative though, because
I can see that.
That goes into another problem. I do feel like they played this movie a little too safe. I really would have liked if Pennywise like really did something strange, like at the end of the film where he's like showing his true shape-shifting abilities. Like I wish he would have come out with like a, because if you think about it, Pennywise is a cosmic horror figure.
Yeah.
So he should have done some like H.P. Lovecraft shit. He should have been like
Exactly.
You could do anything with him at that
with
point.
Cosmic horror.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why the third act was such a letdown, because the direction they decide to take Pennywise in the third act is like, really? This is what this 3-hour movie has been building up to? God,
it's not. It's not earned. It's not even worth the wait most of the time.
It's really not.
Yeah, it's not. I can't argue for that.
All right, if you want, we can go ahead and give our ratings, guys, and then we're gonna jump into spoilers here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go first. As I said, it's obviously riddled with issues, and I think most people who actually know how to analyze film will definitely agree with that. But that being said, like I said throughout this entire review, I personally found it to be pretty entertaining. I wasn't bored much throughout this at all. I found it pretty enjoyable throughout it. And some of the horror parts, I felt some of the tension here and there, but ultimately I wish it was just a bit more creative with its horror approach and trying to scare people, because it was just the same like one note, one trick pony like over and over again. It just got a little tiring.
Yeah.
But I would say for a movie that's 3 hours or close to 3 hours, and for a sequel to a film that I didn't pretty much like very much, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I actually enjoyed it and how much I was truly entertained by it. So that being said, I'll give it Chapter 2. Oh god, y'all are probably gonna hate me for this shit. I'll give it Chapter 2 a 7 out of 10.
Whoa!
Wow.
I didn't expect that.
Because I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed myself in the theater. I was not. What I hate most is if I'm fucking bored. Like if I'm bored and I'm not like enjoying what I'm watching, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm really not liking this. But I was truly entertained by this, and I found it pretty enjoyable. So that's why I'm giving it a 7. So.
Well, as for me, I feel like this movie, actually both It movies, I feel like there was definitely a lot of passion devoted onto these two films. Like I can't deny that, because like something like La Llorona, incredibly fucking dull and passionless, but It Chapter 2 and the first one, they fall under a lot of just like tiring tropes, writing tropes, because almost all the problems to me come down to the writing, because I enjoy the acting. I somewhat enjoy the build up to each scares, even though like the payoff is super like just not great.
Yeah, it's
But,
not. Yeah, it just seems like basically the payoff. We're gonna get into it, but the payoff it's shit that you see in a lot of horror movies. It wasn't creative.
It really doesn't do anything like super inventive. Even the first one had some kind of inventive stuff. I will say that the death scenes for this movie were really cool. For the most part. But I feel like I'm really split down the middle, so I'm just gonna give this movie a 5 out of 10.
Oh, not fresh.
Yeah, 5 out of 10, I think. I still enjoyed it though.
All right, buddy boy.
Well, like I said, I was really disappointed by this film. And to be honest, like, if I was to use the term underwhelmed, I feel like that'd be an understatement. Because for the most part, I really enjoyed the first act. The second act was a complete waste to me, and the third act really pissed me off and just made me groan. And I was really disinterested and bored for the majority of this film. I'm giving it Chapter 2, much to my dismay, a 4 out of 10. This movie's fucking terrible.
I like how mixed we are.
Yeah, we're so mixed on this
And it's
one.
so funny because I went in like the least excited. Like I really, honestly, if it wasn't for this channel and trying to give you guys like my thoughts on it, I probably wouldn't have even saw this movie. But I ended up enjoying it a lot more than everybody else.
I saw it chapter, well, it won, the first one, with Carlos and his girlfriend, and I was the only one defending it. Like, they were not big on it. I felt so alone. I was like, no, I actually like this movie. I felt the same way Carlos did. I was like, yeah, it had a lot of problems, but I still really enjoyed it.
Interesting. All right, guys, it's time to get into some meaty spoilers. Not meaty. So I'm just gonna start with the first act and talk about the shit that I didn't like in the first act, even though I think it might have been the strongest act for me, to be honest.
I can see that perspective.
So in the first act, when we were talking about the fortune cookie shit, there's literally a part where, like, after all the friends meet, there's a bowl of fortune cookies in the middle of the table, and they all just start, coming to life, and these weird fucking obvious CGI creatures
It was bad.
start coming out of it.
It looked terrible.
And then, like, you don't even know what the fuck they are. Like, there's like, okay, you think there's like normal bats maybe, because you're like, okay, is that just a weird looking bat? And then but no, they're like weird, creepy, like supposed to be creepy, like monster type CGI things. But it's so like obvious CGI, and it just seemed weird. It just seemed so like, I don't know. It just seems so out of place and odd.
I just can't I can't believe I was watching like the sequel to the highest grossing horror film of all time. It looked like something from like 2007.
Something like from the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, from the early 2000s. Yeah, it was bizarre.
It was so weird to see that unfold. I was like, what am I watching?
And the aftermath too. Perry mentioned this off of the review on the way to review this. Like, after that happened, there was like no pushback. They were just like, "Are you guys okay in there?" And then it's just like he's literally smashing the table with the chair.
Yeah, dude, he's just going hard on. He's like smashing the chair on top of the table, and she just comes in. He's like, "Is everything okay in here, guys?" How was that believable reaction?
If that was real life, it's like, you guys are fucking banned. You fucking crazy.
They would have had the cops called on them.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of where was the pushback from everyone else that didn't see, Pennywise or didn't know it existed? For example, the kid. Which that whole subplot with the kid where Bill was trying to save a kid that he knew Pennywise had his sights on, it was so underwritten and it was not they could have done so much with that. Yeah, exactly. It was nothing but a plot device. It had so much potential, but it was just squandered.
The kill though was pretty cool.
Oh, the kill was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
The kill was pretty fucking cool.
The kills in this movie are like the biggest positive I can give this film, because the kills were fucking brutal.
This is the second movie of the year with a fun house, and this one did it much better, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. I was like, oh god, us. Oh no.
No, this one had a better fun house scene.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. But to go back to the first act again, there was another issue with it, and it has to do with Beverly's character played by
Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
And so before she actually goes back to Derry, you get one small scene of her and her husband, and it is so fucking cookie cutter, because she basically has this husband that is this weird, toxic, like
very
psychopathic, abusive husband, and just the way it was executed just didn't seem natural. It all just seemed incredibly forced and out of place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like, I was talking about this earlier with Eric on the ride over here, and he says when he was explaining the reason why, I get it. It makes sense, because when you learn about her character, you know that she had a toxic dad or whatever, and it's just trying to show you that when she grows up, that's just the person she ended up marrying, because that's what she knew of men growing up or whatever. Like, I get it. It's supposed to say something about her character.
But they didn't develop it at all.
But it's not developed,
It's
and
not.
literally you could have cut that out, and like it was really unnecessary for the film. It basically served nothing for the film.
They only included Tom Hogan in this film just because he was in the book.
I also think they were trying to justify the fact that she's like interested in those two characters.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, like the love triangle thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they were also trying to justify that. But
But you could not have him in there and still justify that. So
yeah.
Which they really didn't make me give a shit about the love triangle.
Yeah.
Like, I did not give a fuck about that. Because I wasn't invested in the characters that much. Like, this film didn't make me invested in these characters to the point where I'd give a shit about a love triangle between Beverly, Bill, and Ben.
I like this. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I actually like this cast of actors and their chemistry more than I do the first one.
Oh, me, 100%.
I completely disagree.
100%.
The only one I like more from the first is actually Beverly. I like the original, the first, the
Yeah.
kid. Because Jessica Chastain, I mean, she's a good actress, but she just felt a little bland in this.
Yeah, I agree. It sucks because like I was looking forward to almost her the most, besides like maybe James McAvoy.
Yeah, she was fun as fuck in the first one. She was glowing with personality.
Yeah, this one she just felt fucking bland. Like
Ben was horribly miscast. You want to talk about bland? That
He was the worst.
Not only was he underwritten, he was just downright terrible actor. He was, like we said, discount Ethan Hawke.
Me and Perry thought the same thing. I was like, this looks like a very discount Ethan Hawke.
Here's the thing. I think I might disagree somewhat here because I think the casting was good aesthetically because I think he actually resembled the kid very well.
Do you think so?
I don't think so.
He resembled a
think so
similar
at
facial
all.
structure with his eyes and his cheeks. It seemed very similar to me.
But there's more to casting than making him.
I definitely agree with that. It's sometimes when you only focus on casting somebody visually that looks the same, usually you end up getting a shit performance because
That's what
you're not
happened
caring
here.
you're not caring about the talent.
I feel like they did a good job with casting, except him. Like, I disagree with him on all fronts. Like, from physical appearance to personality. Like, he just had no personality. His personality was that he lost weight. I don't know, at least the fat kid had some sort of personality to him.
Yeah, even though
He was charming in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
This one was just like, oh yeah, I'm very bland and I just want to get with fucking Jessica Chastain or Beverly. Whatever.
Every time he's opened his mouth, I just wanted to fall asleep.
Yeah, he was bland as fuck.
And we were talking about the pacing, like we're talking about the first act. The first act, like they actually got back to Derry, Maine pretty quick, and everyone's like, okay, we know we made a promise, we know we got to go back and whatnot. And then the second act just goes to a grinding halt, and then just repetitive horror sequence. It literally felt like the same scene over and over again.
Do you want to go ahead and explain why, like the setup?
Oh my god. Okay, so here's the setup. Okay, they have to find an artifact to put in like this magical bag in order to do a Native American ritual called the Ritual of Chud, which is actually in the novel, but the way it was executed in the film was just fucking terrible and just felt like a plot device to have a repetitive horror sequence again and again and again with the adults.
Because this is like it felt like almost a full hour act. If it was like 45 to 50 minutes, it felt like, of just like going through each character individually.
Yeah, that pissed me off so much.
And the horror sequences, none of them worked for me.
Yeah.
None of them in the second act worked for me whatsoever. The special effects in this film, like, to me, in my opinion, they even look worse than the first one. The special effects in the first one weren't great, but, I mean, they were better than the special effects in this shitty movie.
Like, the reason, one big reason why I say this movie played it really safe is because, like, you expect going into this film, like, the film to, like, go with each character and the living situation and stuff, like, you expect that, and I longed for something, like, more original or, like, a more compelling way to tell their situations.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just watched We Need to Talk About Kevin, and that movie has amazing storytelling, and I'm just like, ugh, this fucking uninspired drivel.
Brilliant film. I have a review on it. Check it out.
Yeah.
By the way, I recommended it to Carlos and Eric. I saw it before they did.
True.
Just throwing that out.
It's a better film than You Were Never Really Here. So.
I disagree.
Sorry.
I disagree. I'm sorry.
They're both fantastic, but yeah, definitely. But
It's a good movie.
But we're getting off topic
I know.
here. It's like, it's okay. Yeah, and it's like I wanted to, like, I understand, instead of like actually like reestablishing the characters and showing their grown-up situation. They just rely on fucking callbacks from the original. It felt like such lazy writing.
There was a lot of spoon-feeding shit.
Oh, we haven't
yeah.
touched on that, yo.
Yeah, because they'll be like, oh, do you remember this? And then, like, not only will they say, like, do you remember it and explain why, but it'll, like, show, like, the scene we've already seen before. It's
Oh my
Every
God.
single act, every single one of them has an issue with spoon feeding. Every single one.
Yeah.
The first act, you have it with Mike's character, who's just over-explaining the whole setup. And then the second act, you have more spoon feeding with their little, like, situations that they're going through. And then the third act, you have... Yeah, and third act, you have more explaining at the very end, especially, when you have an extra scene of James McAvoy calling Mike, and he's like, hey, do you wonder why, like, we can actually, like, recall the stuff this time and not last time? Oh, yeah, maybe it's because blah, 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 blah. And it's like, do we need this? We didn't need this at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess to go to the third act and to get to the spoilers in the third act, I think the first half of the third act was pretty good. I liked it because I liked how, I guess before we get to that, there was a moment where you get the head of Stanley's character, and the head of Stanley's character turns into like a fucking spider, and it looks
just like the Thing.
Yes, it looks like identical to the monster in the Thing, and I just thought
It was still cool.
it looked cool though. I'll give it that. It looked cool.
No, I thought it was good. I actually liked that one.
Yeah, it looked cool, even though it was almost like a blatant ripoff.
Yeah.
It was.
But
It definitely was.
But
Somebody watched the Thing.
But I thought it was pretty cool. But even like, okay, so after that, you know, they're trying to actually get their ritual done and actually like succeed with getting rid of Pennywise. And I liked how it went awry. Like, I liked how, because basically it shows them like almost succeed, and you get this giant balloon coming out of it. I thought that was kind of cool.
I actually liked that too.
Yeah, I thought that was
me
really
too.
cool visually, and I was like, oh, that's okay. I'm feeling like the tension here.
But again, they could have done something really like Lovecraftian, which is what inspired the It novel, was H.P. Lovecraft. But instead, a 3-hour movie builds up to a fucking spider again.
Yeah,
just like in
just
the
bigger.
just bigger.
I mean,
and-
it looks better than the miniseries, because the miniseries was fucking
But that's
weird.
really not saying much.
Yeah, the miniseries is fucking terrible. One big issue that was also a problem in the first movie that carries on over here, and is less of like leeway, is the fact that again they didn't bring any fucking real weapons. Did you know? I mean, that's a huge complaint from the first one, but this time they're adults and they've done it before. So why the fuck did anybody not bring weapons again?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them made the same stupid mistakes they did in the first one. For example, Bill reaching down the fucking sewer. That scene pissed me off so much.
And that was in the second act, and that was a really annoying scene to watch. I will give you that.
My God.
Like, I'm not the hugest on like plot holes, but come on, you guys are facing like this massive like cosmic horror that's been tormenting you and the town for fucking how many years, and you guys are just like, nah, no weapons.
And they even point that out in the It TV movie, which sucked, where Richie's like, I suppose nobody thought of bringing something useful like a machine gun. But nope.
But not even a handgun. Like, you guys are adults this time.
Right.
You could fucking buy a handgun at least.
It's really obvious plot hole there.
Yeah. It's like even a shot. I don't know. I thought it would have been cool if like somebody brought a shotgun and then maybe like something happened to the shotgun and then we had an excuse for them not to have weapons.
But yeah, like
so-
in the third act, the reason why it really got under my skin is because basically the whole solution to killing Pennywise was so fucking aggravating for me.
Yeah.
Because one, we've seen it a billion times in a lot of horror movies.
And Nightmare on Elm Street.
And Nightmare on Elm Street, the Babadook even.
Yeah.
And it's just like, at the end of the day, by the way, the whole, you know, ritual goes awry, obviously, because apparently Mike had some selfish baggage, apparently. I don't remember exactly,
Yeah,
but
me neither.
But apparently he left out an important detail. But basically the whole solution is, well, if we just stand up to Pennywise and act like we're not scared of him, he'll shrivel down to a little fucking pathetic little baby thing, and then we'll kill him that way. And it's just like, first of all, y'all knew that already. Y'all knew that it preys on your fears. Y'all knew that from the very fucking beginning, that Pennywise only preys on people's fears, and you guys only thought of doing this at the very last ditch effort. It was just so random and so like convenient just to get the movie to be concluded, and it was just like, I don't know, I just found it really cheap and uninspiring. We waited 3 hours just to see some shit like that.
And it felt very dissatisfying.
Yeah.
Because all it happens is like Pennywise like shrieks down, but before that you see like his face, his giant head, all these horrible special effects where he just like transforms into all these different things, what they call him, and then he shrinks down into like a baby-sized Pennywise.
Yeah, like fetus Pennywise.
And I'm like, my God.
Yeah,
Really? We waited for this?
Yeah,
it was the third act overall. The way it ended was really
the payoff
disappointing
was
for
not
me.
good.
Oh my God. And then they try to have all the emotional like impact
Stuff,
and everything that it
I didn't
doesn't
buy
earn.
any of it.
No joke. They literally add in this little like subplot where Stanley Uris writes his wife sends out copy of the suicide notes that he wrote for all of the Losers Club. No joke, they literally have Stan look right at the fucking camera. It's like that. It's little things like that that really piss me off. And here's another thing we didn't talk about in the first act. They call Beverly call Stanley Uris's wife to find out what happened to him. You gotta think, she just lost her husband. She would be hysterical.
Yeah.
She would be unable to
I did
talk
not buy
on the
her
phone.
reaction at all.
But her reaction was so fucking unbelievable, and it was just
She didn't seem devastated at all.
exactly. It was just such a convenient way for the other members of the Losers Club to find out about Stan's death.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Stan's death, very
Bad.
well shot.
Oh yeah, yes. Stan's death was very
I'm
well
sorry.
shot.
I was thinking of the wrong character.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're in spoilers, so yeah, the other character dies. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually used. By the way, the only part of the film they actually utilized visual storytelling was that part. The way they decided to portray Stanley's death. I was like, wow, that was actually impressive.
Yeah.
By the way, another thing I didn't mention: this movie has some pretty cool fucking transitions in it.
Oh, yeah.
Like you'll see like a camera like go inside like a sewer, and then all of a sudden like you're in someplace else, or like you'll think you're looking at the stars, and then,
The puzzle one.
Yeah, that was
puzzle one.
awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Well, all right, guys. I guess that's about it.
Long one.
Yeah, this was a pretty long review, but we had a lot to say about it. There's a lot of meat to get into and cut into, so. I guess that being said, I hope you guys really enjoyed what we had to say. This was a pretty mixed bag with this one.
You're gonna watch it. You're gonna watch it anyways. Just be real.
I mean, I recommend to see it just to have your opinion on it, but that's just me.
watch it.
That's just me.
I think it's worth a watch.
But yeah, that being said, I hope you guys really enjoyed our thoughts on it and enjoyed, all the. I know that we're kind of shitting on it, so if you really liked it, I'm fucking sorry. But I hope that you were still able to understand what we're saying anyway. And yeah, so overall, if you really liked what we had to say about it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.